Tonight I want to talk about something that every single person on this planet deals with. Even the smart ones, even the disciplined ones, even the people who swear they know better. It's the whole weird, frustrating, almost comedic experience of repeating the same mistakes over and over again. You know the pattern. You tell yourself you're done with something, and then you do it again. You promise you'll change, and then you slip right back into the same old habits. You swear you'll never be fooled in the same way twice, and somehow you get fooled in the exact same way. And the funny thing is, most people don't even know why they do it. So tonight we're going to break down gently, calmly, honestly, because when you really understand what's happening, it starts to lose its power. The first thing you need to know is this. People don't repeat mistakes because they're stupid. People repeat mistakes because the mistakes feel familiar. Humans are biologically wired to choose what feels familiar over what feels optimal. If something is familiar, it feels safe, even when it's destructive. Think about that. You may tell yourself you want change, but your nervous system wants predictability. Your brain doesn't care if the familiar pattern leads to bad results. It just cares that it knows how the story ends. A lot of bad habits we call mistakes aren't about logic at all. They're about comfort through repetition. The irony is we stay in these patterns we hate because they're the ones we know best. Another big reason people fall into the same loop is because they underestimate how powerful emotions are. People like to believe they make decisions with logic. They think they think clearly. They believe they're rational. But when emotions get involved, logic becomes a background character. Fear, anger, loneliness, stress, boredom, these emotions drive more decisions than any plan we ever make. And here's the problem. Emotions don't care about your goals. Emotions don't care about your promises. Emotions don't care about what the right decision is. They care about immediate relief. So when life gets hard, people don't reach for the correct choice. They reach for the familiar relief. And if that relief has led them into trouble before, well, they fall into the same mistake again. Not because they're weak, but because emotions outrun logic every time you're tired, stressed, or overloaded. Most people believe that time alone teaches them lessons, but that's not true. Reflection teaches lessons. Time just passes. People go through something painful and then they move on without slowing down enough to understand what actually happened. They don't ask themselves what triggered the mistake, what emotion was I avoiding, what warning signs did I ignore, what story did I tell myself to justify it, what did I believe in the moment that turned out to be false. And without reflection, the brain never rewrites the pattern. It just stores the event and labels it. Do this again next time. We survived it once, we'll survive it again. That's why the same mistake shows up over and over, almost like the universe is recycling the same lesson. It's not life trying to punish you, it's your brain trying to automate a pattern because you never paused long enough to correct the code. There's another common trap, confusing desire with direction. People say things like, I want to stop wasting time. I want to get healthier. I want better relationships. I want to stop getting angry. I want to save money. Desire is easy. Direction is a different thing. Desire is feeling. Direction is a behavior. A lot of people mistake the emotional high of wanting to change for the actual work of changing. It's the same feeling someone gets from buying a gym clothes instead of actually going to the gym. The intention feels good. The follow-through is where the mistake repeats. If desire isn't supported by direction, a path, a structure, a routine, it becomes nothing more than a hopeful emotion. And hopeful emotions fade quickly. That's why we're saying things like never again and end up doing again next week. Here's something most people never realize. Mistakes don't happen in the big moments. Mistakes happen in the tiny moments leading up to them. A person doesn't suddenly explode with anger. They ignored 20 smaller signs first. Someone doesn't suddenly spend money they shouldn't, they ignored the first impulse earlier in the day. Someone doesn't fall back into a toxic relationship out of nowhere. They answered the text they shouldn't have answered. They opened the door a crack. The whole pattern slipped back in. Small moments create big consequences, and here's the twist. Small decisions don't feel dangerous. That's why people let them slide. They think it's just one time. It's not a big deal. It won't matter. I'm in control. But every mistake has a first step, and it's always tiny. People repeat mistakes because they miss the first step. They notice the crash, but not the slow turn that caused it. A surprising but very human flaw we all think we're the exception. We think the consequences won't be as bad this time. Or we think more disciplined now, or smarter, or calmer, or older, or wiser. And sometimes we are, but the pattern is stronger. It's like touching a hot stove. The first time you do it, you jump back, but some people keep tapping it because part of them believes this time will be different. It almost never is, but that tiny little hope, that whisper that says maybe, is enough to restart a loop you swore you'd broken. The final reason is simple. Change is uncomfortable, not painful, not impossible, not uncomfortable, and humans avoid discomfort more aggressively than they avoid mistakes. Because mistakes feel familiar, discomfort feels threatening. Breaking a cycle means doing something new, and the brain hates new things. Because new things require effort, vulnerability, risk, failure, patience, self-confrontation. Most people would rather repeat a mistake than experience 30 seconds of discomfort. But there's the good news. Discomfort is temporary. Patterns are not. When you choose discomfort on purpose, patterns start to break faster than you think. So why do people repeat the same mistakes? Because the mistake is familiar, because emotions outrun logic, because reflection is rare, because desire isn't direction, because tiny choices go unnoticed, because humans think they're the exception, and because change requires a kind of friction most people avoid. But here's the part that matters. You don't need to be perfect to break the cycle. You just need to notice the first step. You need to pause instead of autopiloting. You need to choose a little discomfort instead of slipping into familiar. Every pattern can be broken, every mistake can be outgrown, and it doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't need a grand moment. It doesn't need awareness and the willingness to take a different first step. One different step breaks the loop, and once the loop breaks, the whole story starts to change.